So where's this team at right now, Gary?
Further along than probably the last 3 teams we've had through 10 practices. We're a little gimpy with a couple of strained hamstrings, and Wilson is coming back. She's probably at about 80% right now. But if we get her to 90%, that's basically where you want an ACL back after your first year. The second year is always at 100%, but I think we're playing very well right now. We've got a lot of experience. We only have 1 freshman. We have 1 transfer that's working her way in, and then Anna from Colorado State, who's eligible this year. So we got a lot of veterans out there. We're so far ahead, particularly on our offense. I've already put in probably 60% of our offense, and that's way beyond what we were 10 practices the last couple of years.
How exciting is it to enter a season with so many high expectations, Coach?
Expectations, you probably were not old enough to have to read in English class Great Expectations by Charles Dickens.
Sure.
We had to read it, and that's back before there was such a thing as Cliff Notes. And so we had to read Great Expectations, and I always remember that, and I always thought it was a very challenging book. And with expectations, do you follow that up with results? And that's what we're all about. Is expectations are great right now. It'll help us sell season tickets, keep our morale high on our team, help us in recruiting, get the fan base talking about basketball, not waiting to January or February, and I'm all for it. It's up to us to try to live up to that. And I think we have done that just about in the year 17 going in. We've done a pretty good job of finishing higher than we've been picked.
So how do you play your perimeter players now that you basically have 6 starters, heavy on the outside with Washington, Wilson and Carter? How do you play those? Do you interchange them depending on the opponent?
Well, we will. Last year in conference play, we might have been the only team in a BCS team that had kids all average over 30 minutes a game in conference play. That's too much. Did we wear out at the end? No, I just think we faced a better team in Notre Dame and got beat by Notre Dame. And it showed because of all those teams winning the draft. But how do you keep them happy? How do you cut down their minutes? Try to keep kids in non-conference, try not to average over 28, 29 minutes. Develop some depth, experience depth in case an injury does happen during the year, where all of a sudden Chambria saved us last year when Wilson went down. And she wasn't really doing much up until that time. And all of a sudden she stepped up. She might be our best leader on the team out there. And because she's taken upon herself to be the leader on the floor, whether she knows she's not going to probably outscore those other 4 that are out there or the 2 coming off the bench. But leadership can mean something. So I'm going to rotate them in early. And sometimes you say, how can you do that when you're playing the Dukes and of the world and all the people that we're playing non-conference? It'll work itself out, and that's all I can do. Play is earned during practice time. We've got video of every practice, we got stats of every practice, and then we do the individual workouts. I listen to their position coaches on who's improving, who's staying the same, who's sliding down a little. And I've got to trust my coaches to give me that information as well.
You mentioned the newcomers a little bit earlier. Obviously, Anna's been around the team for a year, but how do you see Mackenzie and Jordan fitting in, and how are they adjusting to this experienced team?
Well, Mackenzie, being the only freshman, she's like a little puppy dog up here in the office. As soon as she gets out of class, here she comes running around, sitting in one coach's office, and then she just wants to talk life in college because there's no other 18-year-olds on the team. So she's experiencing everything, just like all of us did when we were freshmen. But she's expected to play and perform. She's got some pretty good kids in front of her, so she gets better every day in practice and even against our men's practice team. So it's going to be a fun thing for her, but she's got to realize when you come into a team as ranked as high as us, sometimes you have to wait a while. Just like Sydney Colson had to wait, Jordan Jones had to wait, everybody had to wait except Aqua and Kennedy. Everybody else has had to wait for their time at that point guard position.
How does Kennedy handle being the so-called face of the program?
I think she does as good of a job interviewing with you guys and gals as anybody I've ever had. I saw that last year when we were up at Bristol, when she just took it and she was going against Anesco and McGowan and all the great players, and people would come back and say, golly, I didn't know that about her. I just knew about her game. She understands the game because she's a student of the game. And I'm sure you can go ask her right now what happened in that WNBA game last night, and she can tell you every play. And that's good because right now she's playing the best basketball of her life. I think it started from the end of last year to the summer of USA basketball to now getting this team ready to go to that next level. I mean, Sweet 16s are nice, but I went through a Sweet 16 once as a kid, and I only want to go through it once. I want to see what that next level looks like. So do our other kids, but we've got a tremendously hard non-conference schedule. RPI will rank as the best schedule going into RPI right now, if everybody lives up to it. And we've got by far the toughest conference schedule on the road. So that's what determines sometimes first, second, or third in our league is who are you playing on the road, not who you're playing at home. And it's going to be tough.